So normally in both systems, we would start the game by either rolling off, or in Age of Sigmar, it's whoever... Well, it's basically whoever deploys finishes their deployment first gets a bonus to see if they go first. In 8th, you would roll off, and whoever finished first would get a +1 to the bonus. In Age of Sigmar, it's just the guy who finishes deploying first. But in this case, I'm going to go 8th edition will go first. Age of Sigmar will go second. Just for the older distinguished gamer that has played 8th for a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. So let's watch as this progresses. Okay, step 1, 8th edition. Movement first. So dwarfs move 3 inches. So here we go. 3 inches up. There is Dwarf Thunderer movement phase, 8th edition. So I just set these guys back for a minute. Here's something I want to note for everybody. See the trees here? They cleared the movement tree because I set them up that way in the deployment phase. But here's the problem with 8th. Supposing I have the trees here. Okay, so now instead of movement phase being move 3 inches, my movement phase is re-rank the troops. Into a new movement tray, probably this one, so that in their next turn, turn 2, they could move forward 3 inches to get around the trees. That's what I want to note with 8th in movement. Okay, Age of Sigmar time. Here's our dwarves. Now, they've made dwarf movement 4 inches. So instead of the 3, bear with me, I've got to extend the tape measure out a bit. Okay, so here we go. 4-inch movement. Up to 4 inch. Now I'm just going to pause the film while I move all these displaced guys 4 inches. But there is one thing I want to point out again. See these trees way over here? Imagine if they were here. Dwarf movement 4 inches. I'm in skirmish formation. I'll just walk right through these trees because my guys can spread out and go through them. And there he is on the other side. If you want your models in the trees, in 8th, you would have to roll to see if the trees are going to get you or poisonous or whatever. Well, you don't really have to decide to do that in Age of Sigmar. The trees will give you a 1-up cover save. So with your armor, you would get a bonus there. So I'll just move these trees back to where they were, more or less, and move these guys, and I'll be back in a second. Oh, you know what? There's something I forgot about. With 8th edition, at the beginning of the game with the dwarves, you roll a dice. Now, on a 1, my lord... this affects their hatred. So on a 1, my lord character, my general, would hate the enemy general. On a 3 and a 4, my enemy general and my other heroes on the board would hate the enemy's general and their other heroes. And on a 5 and a 6, I got total hatred. My army completely hates the other army, which means that in the first round of combat, all my guys can re-roll their failed hit rolls or something, as I remember it right. In Age of Sigmar, you know, at the beginning of the game, you can choose any model in your army to be your general, and I will choose him. Whereas in 8th, I would have had to buy a general model. So that means I could play a box versus a box in Age of Sigmar, whereas in 8th, I would have had to buy a lot more models to begin the game. Anyway, so in the 8th edition rulebook, we have the turn sequence. So I finished my movement phase. I could start the turn, charge, do compulsory moves or remaining moves. So now we're going to do the magic phase. But dwarves don't have magic in either edition, unless I have a runesmith. So they can't do anything there. Oops. So I just realized I got a little ahead of myself here because the two systems play with different turn sequences and things like that. So I need to kind of zip back over on the other side of the table and show you how Age of Sigmar starts a little different from 8th. So over here, it's battle rounds. Mighty armies crash together amid the spray of blood and the crackle of magic. It's played in a series of battle rounds, each of which is split into 2 turns, one for each player. They roll a dice at the beginning of each battle phase. So this is sort of like, remember what they were doing in Triumph and Treachery in 8th edition? If you had 3 people, you would draw cards, and whoever's card came up at the beginning of each turn got that turn first. This is the same thing with dice. So here's something that people have not really mentioned with the Age of Sigmar. You could actually have a table with between 2 to 100 players on this table, and at the beginning of the turn, each guy would roll a dice, and whoever, well, I guess it would be up to 6, right? But whoever got the highest number would go in that sequence. So Age of Sigmar, you could actually play this the same way you did with Triumph and Treachery in 8th. Anyway, so first off, there's a hero phase for Age of Sigmar. This is where you can cast your spells and use heroic abilities. Now, as I mentioned with 8th, when I was on that side of the table, there is no magic phase with Dwarves unless you have a runesmith, which we don't have. However, check this out. Command ability. In your hero phase, your general can use 1 command ability. All generals have the Inspiring Presence command ability, and some may have more on their war scroll. So if I actually had a lord in here, instead of just a regular guy, I could actually use one of his command abilities. However, every single general has Inspiring Presence. Picking it from your army that is within 12 inches of your general. Well, there's only one, and he's in there. The unit that you pick does not have to take Battle Shock tests until your next hero phase. So this Battle Shock is at the end of the game. So we already moved these guys, so that's where I kind of jumped ahead. Anyway, I will go back over to 8th edition because it's still their turn. So here we go. Okay, so 8th edition, we got through the magic phase because I didn't have any runesmiths. So we get into this shooting phase next. So we nominate a unit to shoot. Thunderers. Choose a target. Age of Sigmar. Oh, remember when I rolled in with the hatred? I'm going to put the hatred on these dwarves at 6 because there's so many people, you know, with Age of Sigmar hating on 8th edition people, hating on Age of Sigmar and all that. I'm going to put the dwarves right up there at hatred 6 against Age of Sigmar. Just for you guys specifically, because I know you get a kick out of that one. Choose a target, roll to hit, roll to wound, take saving throws, remove casualties. So the dwarf handgun had a range of 28 inches. Let's see if I can prop the camera. 24 inches. Oh look, I can shoot those Sigmar guys. However, here's the problem. That dwarf handgun was move or shoot. So, because I moved them 3 inches, I negated the shooting phase. Aha! And finally, to end the turn, close combat phase. Well, we never got there. So, Age of Sigmar, continue your turn. Okay, so here we are, Age of Sigmar. Shooting phase, attack with missile weapons. So, shooting phase. Shooting phase, you can shoot with models armed with missile weapons. Pick one of your units. Thunderers. You may not pick a unit that ran or retreated. They didn't. Each model in the unit attacks with all of the missile weapons it is armed with. After all the models have shot, you can choose another to shoot with, which I don't have. So here, 16 inches, we said. 16 inches from the closest guy. Short. Ends up short. For a dwarf. No. I shouldn't talk like that. Anyway. Not in range. So, next, we have the charge phase. They have to be 12 inches away to charge, so we know they're not quite there. Finally, battle shock phase. Well, we haven't taken any injuries yet, so that won't apply. So, that is turn 1, Age of Sigmar. Now, we're getting into battle phase number 2 in Age of Sigmar, so we would roll a dice, and our side got a 6. And, well, if 8th was going to play the Age of Sigmar, sort of, they would roll, and they got a 2. So Age of Sigmar would go next in the battle phase. But I'm going to be fair to 8th, and just use a normal turn sequence for them. So here's 8th's turn coming up next, turn 2.